Hi guys, we have finally reached phase 2C of the Primary 1 school registration exercise, and I'm excited to share with you how to properly calculate your chances of winning the ballot ticket. In essence, we really have to look beyond the basic numbers. If you are thinking there is a simple division of the number of vacancy by the number of applicants, I'm sorry to disappoint you. It is not so straightforward, and you really need to watch the rest of this video to avoid making a wrong bet. Let me explain using Yangzheng Primary School and Ching School as examples. I'm choosing these two examples because my parents stay between 1 to 2 km of Yangzheng Primary and my own place is within 1 km of Ching School. The million-dollar question is, which school should we apply for in phase 2C that will give my child the highest chance of admission? Let's take a look at the numbers for Yangzheng Primary. At the point of recording this video, the number of vacancy left for phase 2C is not published yet, but we can work that out with the numbers for phase 2B. We know that there are 20 places reserved for phase 2B and phase 2C each. For Yangzheng, there are indeed 41 places for phase 2B. You can find this data on the MOE website. The extra 21 places actually came from the unfilled places in earlier phases, which were split equally between phase 2B and phase 2C. Unless, of course, if it's an odd number, then the remainder of 1 will go to phase 2B. This means that phase 2C will have either 21 or 20 extra places added to the already reserved 20 places. Let's assume the worst case and add only 20 places to phase 2C. Now, as published on MOE website, there are 15 applicants for phase 2B. We assume that all 15 applicants are successful. This will leave us with 26 places unfilled, which will be carried over to phase 2C. This makes the total vacancy available in phase 2C to be 66. If we perform the same calculations for Ching School, we will derive a minimum of 77 available places for phase 2C. Now let's take the average of the total number of applicants for each of the school in the last 2 years. Yangzheng Primary saw a total of 86 applicants for phase 2C in 2019 and 102 for 2020. The average of these makes 99. Similarly, the average number of applicants for Ching is 161. Let's summarize what we have thus far. The minimum number of vacancies for phase 2C for Yangzheng Primary is 66, and that for Ching is 77. The estimated number of applicants based on the average of past 2 years' figures is 99 for Yangzheng and 161 for Ching. So where do we go from here? Many parents think that the probability of a successful ballot is simply the number of vacancies divided by the number of applicants. Again, this is a wrong understanding because by doing so, we are not taking into consideration the relative priority given to different groups of people within this phase. The group with the highest priority are Singapore citizens living within 1 km of the school. The next in line are Singapore citizens living between 1 to 2 km of the school, and so on and so forth as shown on screen. To really get a sense of your chances of success, you need to know which group of applicants have to be balloted. If you go to this website, sgschooling.com, you will see that for Yangzheng Primary, the balloting happened for permanent resident living within 1 km of the school in 2019. And in 2020, Singapore citizen living between 1 to 2 km of the school had to be balloted. This means that in 2019, if you are a Singapore citizen staying between 1 to 2 km of the school, you will 100% get a place. But this is not the case in 2020. In 2020, a Singapore citizen living between 1 to 2 km of the school would need to participate in the ballot, and his chances of winning the lottery ticket can be greatly diminished depending on the profile of the applicants for that year. Allow me to explain. Let's assume hypothetically that for this year, the ballot happens for Singapore citizen living between 1 to 2 kilometers of the school, and the profile of all the applicants is as shown. 55 Singapore citizens live within 1 kilometer of the school, and 35 between 1 to 2 kilometers of the school. There are 9 other applicants, but their profile is not important here because they will not be considered for admission, as the first 2 groups of applicants would already take up the entire 66 vacancies. The first group of 55 Singapore citizens living within 1 kilometer of the school will all get admitted. This leaves us with 11 places for Singapore citizens living between 1 to 2 kilometers of the school. If there are 35 applicants with this profile, 35 of you will be fighting for the remaining 11 places. The probability of success is only 31%, which is much lower than that if you had simply calculated the probability as 66 divided by 99, which would give you a 2/3 chance of success. Now, let's take a look at Ching School. We have already established that we have, on average, 161 applicants in the last 2 years, and a minimum of 77 vacancies for Phase 2C in 2021. But we know that balloting is likely to take place even for Singapore citizens living within 1 kilometer of the school, as seen in the past 2 years. This means that if you're a Singapore citizen living within 1 kilometer of Ching School, your ballot chances are at worst 77 over 161, if we assume that all 161 applicants have the same profile as you, that is, Singapore citizens living within 1 kilometer of the school. But we know this is unlikely to be true. If out of these 161 applicants, there are a handful of people who do not have this highest level of priority, then your chances of winning the ballot will improve, because these people will not even get to participate in the balloting process. So this is the overall analysis for my situation. If Yangzheng only goes into balloting for permanent residents living within 1 kilometer of the school, which was what happened in 2019, then our chances of being admitted into the school is 100%, since as Singapore citizens, we have a higher priority. However, if the balloting is for Singapore citizens living between 1 to 2 kilometers of the school, our chances of winning the ballot ticket can be significantly lower than expected, and this is very much dependent on the profile of all the applicants. This is a bit of a wild card here if we do apply to Yangzheng Primary. For Ching though, balloting is almost certainly going to happen even for Singapore citizens living within 1 kilometer, as history has shown. As we are in this category, my worst case probability is 77 vacancies over 161 applicants, assuming that our estimation of the total number of applicants is more or less accurate. Our chances will only improve if there are at least a handful of applicants who fall outside of this first priority group. Unfortunately, even after all this analysis, there is still no obvious choice here. For us, we have decided to take our 50% chance with Ching School rather than to take our chances with a potential wild card, as is the case for Yangzheng Primary. I hope this sharing of our analysis process helped you to look beyond the basic numbers and, more importantly, to decide where best to place your only bet.